So, first of all, you're the coach for Stevie Morrison and Ben Rhodes.
I am.
Yeah. How long have you been working with the boys?
Well, I've known Stevie and Ben for a long time, and I coached every so often over the period of their campaign up to 2008. Just did a couple of days before their World Championships and crucial events, and that seemed to work quite well. They sort of had a habit of doing obviously great training with the team that they work with on a full-time basis. I could do a day or two, and then they go off and win things, and that all sort of seemed quite nice. We've always got on reasonably well, and then I was 49 sailor myself for this campaign, and I stopped this time last year. Stevie and Ben asked me to coach them up until the test event, which is when I started working with them. And then I coached the whole squad from August until Stevie and Ben were selected a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
So busy.
Yes, very busy.
It's completely all-encompassing. There isn't enough time in the day. You're always tired. There's always stress. There's always something that needs doing that you've not done. But it's the best time. It's just brilliant to be involved in it, and I love it. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. It's so exciting.
So how does that role then differ when we get into the Olympic regatta period?
There's a defined point that we'll just say, okay, that's the work side done, and now it's just performance. And the performance is very much more balanced. A lot more time for rest, hopefully. A lot more time for relaxation. A lot more time for just kind of Stevie and Ben to be in a physio, getting kind of relaxed and focused on and getting the mind in the right place. So no distractions, nothing else to do other than perform. It's all about execution. I've got my role within that, and they've got theirs. Generally, it's less demanding. There is more time, but the intensity obviously is just a few degrees, notches higher, because obviously it being an Olympics really does sharpen the focus.
Do you have to be sort of like the sounding board or the voice of reason if things aren't going the way you want them to?
I think it's a relationship. It works well, and it can be intense, and it can be playful, and it can be fun, and it can be difficult and hard. And that's the nature of any relationship. But because I think one of the things that we have is that we all sort of respect each other, and we all equally care about the outcome. So really, if we can kind of keep that going, that performance is the only objective, the relationship tends to be fairly synergenic. The times where it gets difficult is if those things are out of balance. But it is just a relationship, so there's a bit of everything. Sometimes it's an arm around the shoulder, and sometimes it's a kind of a finger pointing exercise, and all things are open, always around the team. So it's not like I lead and they follow. It's not like they set the agenda. We all work together, and we're all fighting hard for the outcome.
Fantastic. So could you describe the boys? Are they quite different characters?
Yes, they are. We're all British men, so we don't really talk about characters and personalities very well. But I'm probably a little bit more girly than they are, if that's not too on PC. I think that in their own ways, they're very, very special gentlemen, and it's an honour to be working with them. They're of course very different. I would probably say that Steve is quite balanced, quite relaxed, very analytical, does think things through, spends a lot of time thinking about his sailing, and if that goes too far, it can become a little bit introverted and a bit sort of a bit tight, a bit over analytical. Ben is very, very kind of feels things, and he's not at all kind of boxed in by numbers or process. he's quite free with his thinking and free with the way that he sails. And between them, that works really well, because obviously you need to be able to sail with freedom and expression, but you need to not be stupid. And I think that, you know, they've got that about right between the two of them. But, you know, they're both, you know, the very best at what they do. They're elite athletes, they're world champions, they're, you know, two-time Olympians. You know, they are able to do it mostly with a smile on their face, but if they're not getting what they want, then, you know, that quickly changes, and the focus can tighten up very quickly. But you know, largely speaking, we have, you know, good fun, and it's relaxed and happy, and I hope it stays that way all the way through.
Yes,
because that means it's going well.
Yeah. Do you think it's sort of a benefit that they have been at the Olympics before, that they're sort of not got that added pressure of not knowing effectively the sort of hype that comes with the games?
Yeah, sailing's an experienced game, and you can get some phenomenally gifted athletes that are able to cut through that experience. You know, we all know a few in this country who've been successful all the way through their careers, but largely speaking, it's an experienced game, and the Olympics especially so. It's in sailing, there's nothing like the Olympic Games, so we don't have anything that's comparable. You know, in some of the other sports, I suppose, you know, the athletics world championships and, you know, perhaps the swimming world championships, you know, those events are reasonably well hyped, and, you know, they're bigger, but they're not so much bigger. In sailing, the Olympics is vastly different than any other competition you'll ever do, and you know, I've had experience of 3 of them, and it becomes less daunting as you go into, you know, each and every subsequent one. I think it's vital that they've been before, and I think that's parcel of their you know, their makeup that makes them, I think, in a great place to go and deliver a great result.
What's the sort of challenges that you face as the coach? Do you sort of feel the pressure for them, or is it hard to sort of be on the sidelines and watch them when they actually go out to do that race, knowing that you can't really do anymore?
Yeah, I think that I'd like to think that one of my strengths as a coach is I care. You know, I'm as motivated and as involved in their campaign as they are. It means as much to me as it does to them. And, you know, certainly when I've been coached in the past, that's not always felt like the case. And I think that most of the people I've coached before would say that that's one of my assets, is that I sort of buy into how much it means to them, and I'll push as much as I can do. The downside of that is that it does get very, very difficult to watch when you're basically on the sidelines and only watching. But I've still got a job to do. I've still got to analyse what's happening in terms of their performance, and think about, you know, what I can say in the short period of time between races or overnight that will make a difference and not go over the top. You know, it's a long period of time to have a regatta. But, you know, I've been through the process before. I watched the girls, you know, work with the girls, Sarah and Pippa, up to win the gold medal in China. And the most nervous I've ever been in my life was during the medal race, because you can allow yourself then, you can kind of indulge in it, because there's nothing more you can do. You know, whether you watch the race or you don't watch the race, it won't affect the outcome. You know, and I really indulged in the sort of intensity and the emotion of the occasion. And that was a phenomenal experience, obviously, that ended positively. Yeah. But, you know, at that stage then, you do realise how much it means to you, and that's the only time that you can actually let yourself go, because there's really no analysis to be done. Mm-hmm. But up until that point, you've got to stay, you know, calm and focused, and try and help the sailors. It might just be one thing, you know, it might be one word too much. Which is probably my fault, rather than the one word too few. But you've got to be very considered about what you say all the way through the Olympic regatta, especially. But on a day-to-day basis, that's also the case.
You mentioned that you worked with Sarah and Pippa. Mm-hmm. How does it differ working with the girls to working with the boys?
It is different. I would say that the boys are more difficult to coach than the girls were, which is probably a strange thing to say, but Sarah and Pippa had this incredible affinity, and we were so well organised by Sarah, who led the campaign from start to finish, and she was incredible, you know, and in terms of the discipline that she sort of put into the programme, and I think we all kind of fell into line behind that, and I found that a lot easier, actually, working with the 3 of them, because it was every day was just a technical debrief. And I hope Stevie and Ben don't mind me saying, but until probably, after November last year, we weren't having technical debriefs because there was a sort of something going on in the boat between Stevie and Ben that meant that we weren't just having technical debriefs. We were actually trying to get the tempo and the rhythm right between Stevie and Ben. Not because there was a problem. It just that's the way that it happened. And so we spent quite a lot of the time getting that right, and I think that we've done that. And I think that their rhythm and tempo, certainly, on a day like today when they come in with a 1-2-2, you think, oh, well, we've probably got that about right now, and we can have technical debriefs, which means that we can be very focused on the things that actually make a difference. But none of those technical things make a difference unless you've got the relationship right.
Absolutely. Do you put sort of quite a lot of pressure on yourself, having been so successful with the girls in Beijing? Do you want to sort of feel that get that again?
I don't want to do this for any other reason than to win. I was sailing myself, and I won here and was second at the Europeans, and with my teammate Mark Asquith, we had a very successful career. But when it got to the important regattas, we finished somewhere between 10 and 4. And that's not good enough, So I know I could do that myself. So the reason that I stopped sailing was because I thought I'd be more help, particularly to Stevie and Ben, but after that to the whole group as a coach. And I still very much believe that. So the only reason I'm involved in this is to win. I don't know whether we will, but that's my motivation, and that's what what it's all about. And I'll be devastated if we don't achieve that.
Do you miss the competitive sailing yourself, or are you kind of really into your coaching now?
No, I don't miss it at all. And I think that in many ways I actually feel as though I'm making a bigger difference doing this than I was, being part of the mix of a very good set of competitive British sailors who were all, largely speaking, mixing it up between 10 and 4 at the important regattas. So I feel as though I'm in a position now where I can make a better difference to the younger guys. And I get just as much of a kick. In fact, I would probably say I get more of a kick out of helping somebody else get that than I would if I did that for myself. And maybe people would find that hard to believe, but I really do believe it. I feel that. I felt that with the girls, and I'll feel that again if we're lucky enough to be successful with the boys.
So sort of looking forward a little bit, sort of see yourself maybe in the next 3-4 years campaigning with another group of people for Rio 2016.
I'll be sailing in 2016.
You'll be sailing?
Yeah, I'm only learning from the boys, so that by the time I'm 50, I'll be ready to finally deliver on my potential.
Great.
You heard it here first.
We'll interview you then as well then. Fantastic.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with having all options open.
No, absolutely not. Go for it. Can you just tell us a little bit about the 49er, what it's like to sail, how it handles?
It's the best boat to sail. It's just ace. It is so much fun, and I'm so glad that they selected the FX for the girls' skiff, because the only thing I regret is that they didn't make a carbon version and give it to the girls, because it would have been great to see the girls whipping the boys, because they would be going faster and sailing better than the boys would over the next 4 years, which is about time, and I think that it's a shame that that didn't happen. But either way, that said, it's anything other than the very lightest of breezes. It's going faster than wind speed. It's very dynamic to handle. You'll see the boys running across the platform in the middle. It makes for some really exciting manoeuvres. Obviously the crosses are very tight and at full speed. You can get some dramatic accidents and incidents, and lots of cartwheels and boats capsizing, and the angles change quite quickly with wind speed, and there's nothing you can do. Once you're on an angle, you can't change that. You can't come away and you can't come up. You're stuck on that angle. So if you've got two boats who are marginal crossing at 20 knots, so a closing speed of not quite 40 knots because they're not head to head, they're slightly, but a good speed of closing, and the angles are changing so that you can get 10 lengths either way very quickly in the last few seconds. It makes for some very, very interesting situations, which is what makes the racing so much fun. But without a question of a doubt, it's the best boat of the Olympic Games, and if anybody's got any opportunity, they should watch the 49ers racing.
Fantastic. So will you be watching, or will you be watching through your fingers?
Oh no, I'll be watching, and I'll probably have a little mantra of stay calm and think about what's happening. Don't wish them to be doing better. Think about what's happening all the way until the medal race, and I can get properly indulged in being a supporter. No, I'll be watching and analysing, and I'll be taking as much information as I can all the way through the regatta.
So are you out on the water with them?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And in between the races, do you get to speak to? So what sort of happens in that sort of downtime where you all come together?
If everything's going well, then as little as possible. Just perhaps we'll just try and draw a line under that and start again back from the datum. If something hasn't gone particularly well, then I'll try and help them assign that to the bin. It's a cliche, but being here and now in sport is all important. The only thing that matters is the information and the observations that you make at any particular time, and then the decisions you make. And those decisions need to be free from what's happened in the recent past or what you hope's going to happen in the future. They've got to be based on good sound reasoning. You've got to get your boat around the course as quickly as possible, and anything that sort of flies in and out of the brain that isn't to do with the here and now is going to stop that from happening. And that's when the rhythm and the tempo gets a bit punctuated. I've not seen that at all in Stevie and Ben in 6 months, and let's hope it carries on that way.
You're clearly very, very passionate, very, very excited. But what keeps you motivated? What keeps you sort of on the money and driving the boys?
I'd race my wife at doing the dishes, I think. Anything that's any sort of sport I love, and I've managed to tone it down a little bit over the years, but my competitive instincts probably sharp. It is an understatement. So I've got no problem getting myself fired up for the challenge of helping the boys win.
So do you find yourself wandering around checking people out, going, oh, they look quite good, or oh, they'd be good to coach, or try and giving coaching tips when you see people on like a local lake?
Definitely. I mean, I think that there's a couple of the young guys in the squad, and I don't know, maybe it irritates them, but I can't help myself. But just sort of go in and say, look, I saw this today, and maybe you could think about that. But I tell you now that 80% of it isn't to do with the technical side. It's to do with their ability to just process information, because it is just an information processing game. At the end of it, yes, okay, there's a large technical element, but if you can have all the technical elements in the world, if you don't process the information effectively and do that with ruthless consistency, then your performance is always going to be up and down, and that's the thing that is difficult to get right if you don't have it right in the first instance. And the younger guys especially need that. They need to get that right, because it's habit forming. If they start with bad habits, and that bad habit can infect a sailing career for a long time, whereas a sort of 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, if somebody comes and says, no, that's not how you're going to operate, and I'm not going to allow that to operate, then they can start to form good habits and find their own way of doing the thing. I mean, there are plenty of good sailors who aren't calm. It's not about being calm, it's about processing the information effectively.